Hello coders, this is Jared with Renaissance Coders, and today we're going to learn about objects in JavaScript. Okay, objects in JavaScript are actually fairly easy to understand and implement, so hopefully this tutorial will give you everything you need to start writing and creating your own objects in JavaScript. Now, an example that a lot of people use when showing others or teaching other people about objects in JavaScript is that objects in JavaScript are just like real world or tangible objects. For example, if you think about the computer that is right in front of you, then that computer has several properties that make it what it is. You know, it's got a set amount of RAM, disk space. If it's a laptop, it's got a set resolution. It's got a color. A bunch of different things that make it the computer that it is. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be thinking about our computer as our tangible object and creating the JavaScript equivalent of that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and create our object. And to do that, I'm just going to very simply write var my computer is equal to new object. Okay, and essentially all this statement is doing is it's creating a new variable, my computer, and then we're using the new keyword and the object keyword. Okay, and essentially all this is doing is creating my computer as an object that can take in properties. Now, to add properties to this object, I can simply use the dot notation and say something like my computer dot make is equal to Apple MacBook Pro. Okay, and now I'm going to add another property for the model. So I'm going to say my computer dot model is equal to 15 inch. Okay, and I'm going to add one more property for the year. So I'm going to say my computer dot year is equal to 2011. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got two different variable types for the properties. We've got a number type and a string type. And I just wanted to show you guys that you can very easily do that because again, we're in JavaScript, and if I were to now encapsulate 2011 in quotes, then it would become a string. But I wanted to show you that you can use this as a number as well. Now, I personally like this dot notation pretty well because it seems to be pretty quick. It's fairly easy for others to look at and understand very quickly, and it's fairly easy for beginning programmers to wrap their head around. There are several other ways to add objects or add properties to an object, and we're going to cover some of those today, but we won't cover all of them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and do something with these properties because we've created the properties, we've added them to the object. Now what we need to do is do something to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple function that prints out every property associated with this object. So to do that, I'm going to say function write properties, and it's just going to take in an object, but I'm going to call that obj for short. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a for in loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to say for every property in this object, we want to write out that property. So to do that, we're going to say for var I in obj, open up our curly braces. We're going to say if that object dot has own property. Make sure you pass an I there. Then we're going to document dot write the object reference to I plus a break statement. Okay, and that's really all we need for this function to work. It's a very simple function. Now what I actually want to do is I want to go ahead and call this function. So I'm going to enter some spaces down here and say write properties, and we're just going to pass in the my computer object. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and as you can see over here, it is updated and it has the properties that we added in. So again, just a very simple function. This may be useful for something like a e-commerce shopping cart or something like that. Okay, so that's pretty easy stuff, right? I did want to show a few other methods for creating objects, and this next method we're going to cover may be a little bit easier for those that have some experience with coding. They've worked in JavaScript before, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to create an object and give its properties and assign those properties all in sort of a single line or statement. So to do that, I'm just going to say, well, let me zoom back in real quick. To do that, I'm going to say var my other comp, I'm going to say comp for short, is equal to open curly braces, and now I'm going to actually use the name of a property, so I'm going to say make, and it's going to be a Lenovo, and then make sure you use your comma between the properties. The next property is going to be a model, and it's an IdeaPad, comma, and then we're going to do the year. I'm not really sure on the year with this one, but I'm just going to put 2013. Okay, and then once you've done all that, you just do a semicolon at the end of the line. Now, I do want to go ahead and do the write properties function that we created on this new computer. So I'm going to say my other computer, and then zoom back out. And as you can see again, we've got Lenovo IdeaPad 2013 printed out there. So that's just, again, it's just another way to create and assign properties to an object. And you may have noticed here that we didn't use the new keyword. And with JavaScript, since everything is dynamic, and most things are considered to be objects anyways, that we don't have to use that new keyword. All we have to do is use this sort of notation, and it will figure out that we're creating an object. Okay, so in this video I did want to do one final method for creating an object. And this final method would be pretty useful if you have, like I said earlier, an e-commerce website and you have to create a lot of very similar objects fairly quickly. And this next method is going to use what is called a constructor function. And the constructor function is pretty useful. It's pretty easy to do, and it will make a lot of sense to most programmers or developers. If you're fairly new, this may not make as much sense because we're going to be using keywords that you may not have seen before, but again, it's a fairly easy way to create a lot of objects really quickly. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to create a new function. I'm going to say function computer. Okay, and make sure you name that something that makes sense to you and will make sense to others in the future. And this is just going to take in 3 arguments for our properties, and that's going to be the make, the model, and the year. Okay, and then after that I'm going to open up my curly braces. And the next step is actually really simple. All we're going to do is say this dot make is equal to make, okay, semicolon, this dot model is equal to model, and this dot year is equal to year. Okay, and that's really all we have to do in this function. It's very simple, very easy to do, and again, it allows you to extend, or it allows you to create multiple objects really quickly. So let me show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so to use this last method to create an object, all we're going to do is say var, and I'm going to create another computer, and I'm going to call it my desired computer. Okay, and we're going to set that equal to a new computer. Okay, so we're calling that function computer. And we're just going to pass in some values here. So I'm going to say Apple MacBook Pro 15-inch as the model, and the year is going to be 2015. Okay, and then a semicolon. And now what we actually want to do again is write out our write properties, and we're just going to do my desired comp here, semicolon, and make sure it updates again. Okay, and so it did update again. So now we've got 3 computers over here. And another thing I wanted to show you that's really cool about this, using this last method, is that it's really sort of extensible and fairly easy to add new things. So let's say for this function, if we want to create all of our computers with a with a RAM and with a disk space. So to do that, I'm just going to do a comma RAM and a comma, I'm just going to say storage here. And again, we can just use this dot RAM is equal to RAM, and this dot storage is equal to storage. all we have to do down here is just edit our line that's creating the new computer or the desired computer. And for this, I'm going to say infinite and infinite. Okay. And then if I zoom back out, you can see that my desired computer is an Apple MacBook Pro 15-inch from 2015 with infinite RAM and infinite storage. Okay guys, so in this video we essentially covered the creation of objects in JavaScript. We're going to do another video that extends off of this one, so a part 2 to objects in JavaScript, including adding a method as a property to an object and a few other really cool things that you can do with objects in JavaScript. We have almost completed our JavaScript intro series with just a few videos left, so be sure to drop us a like if you enjoy this series and subscribe if you like the channel. As always, thanks for watching, and this has been a Renaissance Coders tutorial.